Good morning, everybody. As we go to the daily chitas, we're holding on the book of Shemais. We're holding Parshas Pekudei, the last parsha of this book. We're holding on chapter 38, verse number 21. Eila Pekudei HaMishkan Mishkan Eidos. These are the appointments over the tabernacle, accounting over the tabernacle, Mishkan Shepakad Me, which is the tabernacle testimony, Shepakad Moshe, which Moshe Rabbeinu counted. Al Pi Avedus HaLeviim, according to the work of the Aveda, the service of the Leviim, Biyadi Sama, and the hand of Yisama ben Arein HaKoyin, who was the chief, he was the conductor, the manager, was Yisama, the son of Aaron HaKoyin. Ashizeh says this section, the weights of all the contribution of the tabernacle, the silver, the gold, the copper, they are listed, and all its furnishing are specified along with the service of each. Hamishkan, Mishkan. Rashi says, why does it say twice in the pasuk? Mishkan, Hamishkan, Mishkan, Hamishkan, Hamishkan, Mishkan. So Rashi says the word Mishkan is written here twice to allude to the two holy temples that was taken away as a pledge for the Mishkan. And 2 times it was destroyed on the counting of the transgression of the Jewish people. Ha-Mishkan, Mishkan. Mishkan Eidos. This is a tabernacle of testimony. Rashi says, it testifies to Israel that the Holy One, blessed be He, had forgiven the people of their sin of the golden calf. For He agreed to let His presence dwell amongst them. Avedus HaLeviim, meaning the appointments of the tabernacle and its furnishing constitutes the work entrusted to the Leviim in the desert, to transfer, to dismantle, to erect, each man according to the burden that was assigned to him, as stated later in Parshas Nosai, in the book of Numbers. Yadi Sama, Rashi says he was in charge of them, to delegate to each family group the task that was assigned. Tzalel ben Uri ben Chur, and Tzalel the son of Uri, the son of Chur, Lamata Yehuda was the tribe of Yehuda. Asas kol asher tziva Hashem es Moshe. He did whatever Moshe Rabbeinu commanded, whatever God commanded Moshe. Now she says, Tzalel the son of Uri, the son of Chur, had carried out all that God had commanded us. It does not say that Moshe had commanded him, but that God had commanded him. Meaning, even regarding things that Moshe Rabbeinu had not said to him, his own reasoning conformed with what Moshe had been told by God. For Moshe had instructed Bezalel to first make the furnishings of the tabernacle and then to do the tabernacle. But Bezalel said to him, surely the usual way of making a house. First you make the house first, and then you make the furnishings. Moshe Rabbeinu said to him, I indeed directly heard from the blessed be. Moshe Rabbeinu said to him, you must have been in the shadow of God, B'tzel Kel. For that is indeed that the Holy One, blessed be, commanded me. And that actually what Bezalel did. He made the tabernacle first and then made the furnishings. This is a famous argument that Bezalel had with Moshe Rabbeinu, and Moshe Rabbeinu conceded at the end that he was right. Eliyav and Eliyav ben Achisamach, Eliyav the son of Achisamach, Lamate Dan to the tribe of Dan, Chadash v'Choshe v'Reikim. These 2 guys were craftsmen and weavers and embroiderers. Batchelis Bagana Mitlashani in the Turkish, in the purple, in the scarlet wool, and in the linen. And all the gold that was used for the work, and the gold of waving, the offering was came. Teisha ve'esim kika came to 29 talents of gold and 730 shekel HaKodesh. Rashi says that a talent is 60 manna. Of the sacred manna was double. Thus, the sacred talent was equal to 120 regular manas. The regular manna was 25 shekalim. Thus, the sacred talent equaled 3,000 shekel. Therefore, the Torah enumerates the individual, all the shekel less than 3,000, which did not add up to the talent. So it's very hard to calculate this because this is all in the calculation of Hegdish, the way Hegdish calculated. Generally, even in Torah, there's the way Hegdish calculated, and there is the way it's calculated normally. As you see, Rash says everything over here is double. The silver for those of the community who had been counted came 100 talents and 175 shekel of the sacred shekel. Every person gave a beka. When it came to the silver, every person gave a machzis shekel. So each and every individual gave a machzis shekel. That's how they counted the shekel, the shkalim, the silver. For all those that went through the counting, who 20 years and above. The sheish meis elef to the 600,000 to the 603,000 and 550 those that were 20 and above. That was the silver came from. Beka, who shem mishkel shemachsa shekel. Beka is the name of a weight of a half a shekel. The sheish meis elef 603,550. This is the total number of people of Israel. This is the total number of the tabernacle was erected, as it's stated in the book of Numbers. And also at this point, when donating for the tabernacle, the number was the same. The number of a half a shekel was 600,000, equals 100 talents. Each one being 3,000 shekel a talent. How so? 600,000 shekel make up 300,000 whole shekels, which is exactly 100 talents. Now you have the remaining 3,550 half shekel, which equals up to 1,775 shekel. So that's how it came to 3,000. It came to 100 talents and 175 shekel. And that's how much of silver it was. I once said exactly, I think in the Torah director, I'm sorry, in the one of the Chumashim, it gives you exactly the number today, the value. I'll look it up. And the 100 talents of silver were used for casting of the base of the tabernacle. Is the base of the curtains. There was 100 bases altogether to the 100 talents each, because each base weighed a talent. Rashi says the tzechus of casting. Sadna kodesh. Rashi says the base of the sanctuary, meaning of the planks of the tabernacle, which were 48, having 96 bases, because each plank had two adonim. So 48 is times 96. Then you have the four bases of the curtain, making a total 100. But all the other bases was not made of gold, silver. It was made out of copper. And that's why they're not in this count. And the 1,775 shekel that was extra over the 100 talents, he made all the pillars, the hooks, were also silver. He overlaid the tops and branded them with silver. So all the Rashi says all the silver, all the pillars with them, regarding them all, it's written, and their top and their bands were silver. So he used the 1,775 talents for all of those articles. And all the copper that was given was shivin kikar, was 70 talents, shekel, and 2,440 shekel. He made with that, with all this copper. He made he made the basis of the screen of the tent of meeting. There's mizbach and the copper altar. There's michbar and and the copper grate. There's shalei, there's klei mizbeach, and all the vessels of the mizbeach, which was copper. And then all the pillars of the courtyard that were around were surrounded the Beis Hamikdash, the Mishkan. And the bases to the entrance of the Beis Hamikdash, of the Mishkan. V'eskol yizdeis hamikdash, all the stakes of the tabernacle. V'eskol yizdeis and all the stakes of the courtyard was made out of copper. verse 39. And for all the Turkish and purple and scarlet wood. Also, as Big Asrad, they made the netting, packing clothes for use of the tabernacle. This is the coverings, as Rashi is going to say. Yasser is Big Kodesh, and then also they made the garments of the Kohen, Hashalarin, which Aaron wore and his sons, Kashatziv Hashem Moshe, which God commanded Moshe. She says Sheish Leina Makan. In the beginning of the passages, it doesn't say the concept of Sheish, because that was linen. And Mekanani Omer, Rashi says linen was not mentioned here, and from here that I deduce that the Big De Hasrad, when it says Big De Hasrad in the verse, are not priestly garments. For the priestly garments all contained linen. Rather, they are clothes that which are covered the holy vessel. The Big De Hasrad are the covers of all these utensils. And the time being dismantled, when it was dismantled for travel, it was covered by the Big De Hasrad. It was covered by these garments. That's the Big De Hasrad. And that ends the Chumash for today. The Alter Rebbe continues the concept of Gilui, revelation of godliness. And he ended off 2 days ago. He explained the concept of Yemei Mashiach. The concept that then we'll see, then what Denver Row, Kobasa Yachtav, that the entire flesh, our eyes will see godliness. And that's the whole purpose of creation, to bring Mashiach. That's the purpose of why we came to the world for. It's not only a reward, the reward will be in the 7th millennium. But the coming of Mashiach is not a reward, it's the purpose. We're not trying to catch rewards over here, we're trying to accomplish with a mission. Why God sent a human being to the world, especially a Jew. Now, this ultimate purification of Messianic and the time of the resurrection of the dead, the meaning is that we are pushing for Mashiach so that we'll have simply a revelation of God, the infinite light of God, in this physical world. So you might think, what are we doing right now? Thousands of generations, hundreds of generations, and all that Jews that preceded us that are now in Gan Eden. What did they accomplish? They didn't merit to see they're going to be in Tchias HaMesim. Tolu b'maseinu, therefore the Alter Rebbe says, Tolu b'maseinu v'avidseinu kozman meshach hagolus. Is all dependent. Everything that a Jew does in this world, he brings the concept closer. Brings the concept closer. So therefore, even though ultimately one person, or we're going to bring Mashiach, but it's all based on the generations that preceded us. Because everything we do in Galus brings about closer, breaks clippers, and brings about closer this concept of Mashiach. Unlike the formation and revelation of Sinai, which is initiated by God. No. Since Galus, since that time, started off, since actually Avraham Avinu, actually. So all those things that happened, the building of the Mishkan and Matan Torah, all this was given by the Eibishter, and it was not ultimately, did not finish the job. And we are finishing the job. For the mitzvah itself causes and creates its reward. The Rebbe notes, unlike, for example, wages paid the owner of the field to the laborer who plows and plants is, with the labor that does not create the money he is paid. A mitzvah actually creates its own reward. So the laborer works in A and he gets B. Really, A and B have nothing to do with each other. He's planting the field. He doesn't get anything for the field. He's getting paid. He's getting paid money. What does money have to do with the field? And he doesn't want anything with the field. He wants to have money. But the mitzvah, the reward of the mitzvah is the mitzvah. Why is the reward of the mitzvah schar mitzvah? Because the whole purpose of the mitzvah is to bring godliness in the world. That's what the mitzvah does. So the mitzvah brings godliness into it right now. The only thing is you don't see it. But you have the reward now, right now. Mirch Hashem will see the ultimate reward. We'll see what the mitzvah will have the revelation. Because when a Jew does a mitzvah, he pasha draws a bond, a revelation of the blessed and safe from above to this world. The shlab is begashmis, to clothe itself physically in this world. He took something that was to begin with under the domain of impurity, klipat nega, and it received and it received the vitality from all these klippas till he did the mitzvah. Which this is all mainly all the pure permissible objects. Which a mitzvah is done through. By performing the mitzvah, man draws down oid and seif upon the object in which he performed the mitzvah. The Rebbe now illustrates his phrase, pure permissible object, which the act of the mitzvah is performed, citing an example, one object, for which each category of animal life, vegetation, and inanimate object. In klafat tefillin, umezuzah. You take the parchment tefillin, you take the mezuzah, sefer HaTorah, you take a Torah. It's made of an animal. It's made out of the hide of an animal. The work of heaven, you're not allowed to use a cow, you're not allowed to use a horse's hide for a tefillin. It has to be cow's hide. A cow is a kosher animal. So you have to use a kosher animal, only that which is pure and permissible to eat, to be used, you're allowed to use for tefillin. So the parchment derived from such animal is, however, under the domain of klippas neg until one uses it for tefillin. So you have a cow. It's kosher, but it could be used for the hide, could be used for anything else, and it's used for tefillin. Now you've taken the hide, which is it could be used for anything, and you used it for a mitzvah. So you see that we have transformed the animal. Similarly, an esrig, which is not orla, it's not prohibited. It's not in the first 3 years of its planting. References to his earlier stipulation that esrig not be orla and a charity be honestly required. The Rebbe notes, Sha'orla ishloish klippos atmeis legamri. Orla, the first 3 fruits of a tree, the first 3 years of a tree, is not only a klippos nega, that is totally impure. Shein lem aliyah lo'ilam. Orla, fruits that grow on a tree for the first 3 years are poshet usher, they're prohibited for no, you don't have any value of it. So you're not have any vitality. These are evil. These are impure totally. As it's brought down in Eitz Chaim, that's why ultimately the Torah prohibits a tree for the first 3 years, because it's called arla, meaning that anything from it is totally impure. Ultimately, after that, it becomes totally the capability to use it as a mitzvah, to use this tree as an esrig, and we can do the mitzvah sukkah with it. By minimum with it. So too similarly, any mitzvah that is performed through an aveda. So let's say I take a tree, an esrig tree, and let's say it grows in the first year, beautiful esrogim, and I take it, I use it for my mitzvah. Didn't do a mitzvah. I made a bracha levatala. I made a blessing in vain on all this mitzvah. It's a beautiful esrog. Might be beautiful, but it's not. You cannot do a mitzvah with arla. Even though in 3 years from now you're going to be able to do the mitzvah with the new fruit of the 4th or the 5th year, because it's prohibited. It's like a non-kosher animal. It's klippos atmeis. It comes from a total impurity that cannot be elevated. Simply cannot be elevated. Cannot do a mitzvah with it. It's impossible to do the mitzvah with it. And so too, any mitzvah you do, that you do it through an aveda. So I steal money, God forbid, and I give it to tzedakah. Moish tzedakah, as the Alter Rebbe says, money from charity, shein and gezel. You didn't steal it. So the other physical object used for performing a mitzvah, all which are previously in the realm of klippos nega, as the Alter Rebbe will conclude presently, are now merged into divine will by serving the purpose of a mitzvah. When performed, however, with pure and permissible object, the mitzvah elevates the object from the klippas neiga to holiness, to be united in Ein Sof Baruch Hu. The Rebbe continues. Achshav shemekayim mitzvahs, and now one does a mitzvah. Let's say in the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then the life force of all these physical objects, comes one with the light of God, which is the will of God, which is enclosed in this mitzvah, the divine will that each mitzvah represents. Because this mitzvah, when I do a mitzvah, there's no concealment of the countenance, whatever to hide his light. This is what God wanted. It's simple. Mitzvah is simple. As you say in the bracha of the mitzvah, this is a mitzvah which God commanded. It's very, very basic. To preventing the object from being absorbed into the light. I stated earlier, whatever the Ein Sof stands revealed, there's no separation from God. Anything is united in his light. In this case, the object in which the mitzvah represents to reveal the will and the light of Ein Sof performed. So thus far, the Alter Rebbe has discussed the effect of the mitzvah on the object used in the performance of mitzvah, like an esrog, parchment of tefillin, etc. He now discusses the effect of the power of the Jew's animal soul, because the one who's doing the mitzvah, the Jew that's doing the mitzvah, he's doing it with his body. And the Alter Rebbe is again he's doing it ultimately with animal soul, because that's what gives him life, his animal soul. This soul, like the mentioned object, derives its vitality from Kippas Neiga, just like them. So there's no difference between an animal soul and the esrog, or the tzedakah, or the parchment. They all come from Klippat Neiga. My animal soul also comes from Klippat Neiga. So therefore, experience a similar elevation to the realm of holiness whenever it's used to the service of a mitzvah. Being absorbed, my animal soul is being absorbed into the divine will represented by the mitzvah. As the Alter Rebbe says, so to the power, dividing the lighting the animal soul, clothing the body, in the actual physical flesh of the body, a mitzvah that does this mitzvah, is also being clothed in this physical action of this physical mitzvah. And it happens, and it's totally nullified in the light of God. It's totally nullified in the light of God. The Alter Rebbe now goes on to explain, to say that these mitzvahs, those mitzvahs involved speech alone, likewise affects this elevation of the animal soul. Even though here the animal soul's power is not brought to bear in the performance of a mitzvah, it's speech, as we explained before. Real bringing your animal soul is action, but still, you can't speak without your animal soul. So too in the learning of Torah, v'kriyishma, and saying the Shema, v'tfilah, even though it involves speech, so it's really not a physical action, which is really under the domain of the klippat neiga, the klippa that shines, is really the physical. And we learned that we know the Gemara says that thought is not in the same realm as speech. We know in halacha you don't do the obligation of davening until you say it with your mouth. And we hold in halacha that we hold in halacha that the moving of the lips is a maisa, is an action. It's some kind of an action. And such an action, as the Alter Rebbe notes, likewise stems from the vitality of the klip of neiga, which nourishes by the animal soul, as does the actual body action spoken earlier. So everything comes from my animal soul, even my speech, not only my action, but that I have the capacity of speech. Because ultimately my animal, my godly soul cannot move my lips, my mouth, Valoshin, and my tongue, Vashinayim, my Gashmin, and my physical teeth. It all comes through the vitalization of my animal soul, which is clothed in the body. So the divine soul is entirely spiritual. The body is physical. Therefore, the divine soul cannot activate the body to perform mitzvahs except through the intermediary. And this intermediary is the animal soul, which on one hand is a soul, a spiritual life. Yet on the other hand, it's actually clothed in the body, in the bodily organs. So this intermediary is necessary for the performing of mitzvahs through speech, just as a mitzvah performed through action. For articulation of the words requires for the mitzvah to constitute physical action. So to this, that this too cannot be accomplished by divine soul, except through the animal soul powers. So you see that ultimately everything is done through the animal soul. And the more firstly one speaks, when one speaks with chayis, with a passion, he introduces his soul energy, introduces the clothes itself more in the words. Thereby, he converts more of his energy of klippa into holiness. And therefore it says in the pasuk, all my bones shall declare God, who's like you. Which means that the words of Torah and prayer must be said with one's bones. That's why Chassidim shakel, they shake and they wave their hands and they scream, because they want kol atzmai temayna. They don't want to say the words with their mouth. They want to say the words with the entire body, which is one of the bones that's such possible. The body's energy utilized for performance of mitzvahs. This is what our sages said of blessed memories. If the Torah abides in all the 248 limbs of the body, it will be preserved. If you only leave the Torah to your brain, if your Torah does not affect the 248 limbs of your body, then it's going to disappear. It's not. It's going to stay in the brain. It's going to be an elusive concept. A person should learn Torah, should be a geya with Torah. That's what Torah, the Gemara says, Torah makes you physically tired. Ain't a mishtaberes, because you have to make the Torah felt in the body. You should know, realizing that forgetfulness, the matters of Torah, stems from the klippa of the body. Hachayuna sabiyam is the vitalizing animal soul. That we forget is because we simply did not learn it well. We kept it in our mind. We didn't bring it down to our body. And that's why we're forgetting it. It's not part of us. Shem beklipas nega, but it's not so terrible because you always can learn. Zachatiska, we need to remember. But ultimately, forgetfulness comes because simply we're not connecting well with the learning. And it's not being absorbed in our body. When it's absorbed into holiness, there's no longer, you'll never forget. And you know when you do that, this is accomplished when one weakens the power of the body and the animal soul, applying all the strength. Machnis kol koichan, when a person applies all his strength. B'kedushas ha'Torah v'tefillah, in the holiness of Torah and davening. This then is the meaning of the mentioned quotation, where one involves all the energy of his 248 limbs in the study of Torah. It preserves in his memory, and for the klippa that caused one to forget has been weakened. And that completes the Chumash, and that completes the Tanya for today. Today is the 23rd day of the month of Adar, which in the Tehillim is chapter 108 to chapter 112. If you do those 5 chapters, you do the Chitas of the day. The Rebbe writes in Hayom Yom of today, rabbis and scholars are called the eyes of the community, the heads of thousands of Israel. And when the head is healthy, the body is then healthy. My father once said to a rabbi who labored in Avodah and was a especially diligent scholar. A rabbi must remember at all times and at every moment that he is always stands on the threshold, being the one who brings merit to the public, and God forbid, one who causes a public to sin. And the threshold between the loftiest of heights and the most abysmal depth. All issues must touch him at the innermost core of his soul, literally, because his very soul is at stake. And that's what a rabbi should realize his responsibility. And that completes the today's learning. I invite you all at 10 o'clock. We will learn Tanya together. You can come to the JEI school in the shopping center here, or on Zoom, or on Torah Direct. And we can learn together at 10 a.m. in Beit Hashem. We'll see you all tomorrow, 8 o'clock. We'll continue to learn the chitas of the day. Have a truly